Our seventh tradition states that every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. We will now pass the basket. Sure, thank you. This is a weekly literature or step meeting. Our format is as follows. The speaker will speak for 15 minutes, for speaking for no longer than 30 minutes. He or she spends 15 minutes on qualifying themselves and the other 15 minutes on either a composition from the big book or on the step of that week, followed by group shares, discussions, or questions until 7 p.m. We then end the meeting with either the Lord's Prayer or the Serenity Prayer, whichever the speaker chooses. You can find our past weekly meetings on our YouTube page called Stay Alive Literature and Step Group Meetings. You can also find information about our upcoming meetings and other great stuff on the Doylestown Recovery Group Facebook page. Do not forget to smash the like button. This brings us to the speaker portion of this meeting on this day of, what is today? Today is Monday, December the 22nd. Sound pretty good? 2025 in Doylestown, PA, at the Monday night 6 p.m. meeting, Stay Alive Literature and Step meeting at St. Paul's Lutheran Church. Tonight's speaker is Lorna, and she is sharing her experience on Step 10. Let's welcome her.
Hi, my name is Lorna, and I am definitely an alcoholic and an addict, and I have a disease of more of anything and everything I could possibly get my hands on to make me feel good and not think about my true feelings. My sobriety date is September 25th, 2001. I have a sponsor. I'm very honest, so bear with me, but I don't use her the way I should. So she knows she's my sponsor, but I'm sure she would like me to reach out a little more often. I do have a sponsee. I do not have a home group, but I do make a regular attendance at meetings, and I'm fortunate enough to work in the field of addiction and help beautiful young women blossom into recovering. It's just I have a beautiful job. That's all I can say. I'd like to say that I'm a first timer. I am not. It took me 31 years to get 24 years sober. I was in and out of these rooms for 7 years. I'm not a recovering Irish Catholic. I don't come from any past trauma. I don't have, alcohol doesn't run rampant in my family. I was just born an alcoholic. That's it. You know what I mean? Because of that, I think that's one of the reasons that I was in and out for 7 years, because I had, I didn't have any abuse, and I didn't have it running through my family. I had very loving parents. My grandfather did die of alcoholism, but I didn't know him. And other than him, there's no one else in my family with addiction or alcoholism. Mental health does run in my family a little bit. But I just was not willing to accept the fact that I was an alcoholic, because there was no reason. I had to have a reason why. I can see it, touch it, feel it. I'm the type of person, if I can't see it, touch it, feel it, it doesn't make sense to me. And that goes along with the higher power. As I continue to tell my story, I'll explain that also. But, I grew up with very loving parents. I didn't grow up, I didn't have everything I wanted, but I had everything I needed. And to be honest, when I say I didn't have everything I wanted, I don't think my wants will ever be met, because I always want more. Nothing is ever enough. So what it was like, I grew up in a great loving family. I was an only child. I didn't have any brothers, sisters, cousins. I was the only grandchild, the only niece, the only child that existed in my world until my brother came along 7 years later. So when I tell you that I got all the attention, I got all the attention. And I love being the center of attention still. But when he came along, I was just ugh, what's this little thing? I didn't like him. It wasn't a nice big sister at all. Not even a little bit. And, I was a good student. I don't know. I until I was 14 years old. I'm not one of those people that when I had my first drink, I had found God and was oh, that was not my story. I found my first drink when I was probably 14. I hated it. I was this is horrible. Of course I drank to excess, threw up, hungover, and I was like, I'm never doing this again. And I didn't for a while. But I did dabble with, dry goods. I smoked a little bit, My first addiction, I don't believe, was alcohol or drugs. I believe it was shoplifting, and then it was boys. And that's why I say, I have a disease of more of everything and anything. When I looked back, after being sober for a while, when you would have told me this years ago, I would have never believed any of this until I was able to see clearly the progression and the truth of my life. I had a boyfriend, and that's how I identified myself as so-and-so's girlfriend from the time I was 14 years old on. Never was I alone, ever. I found validation through that, and that's just how it was. I loved shoplifting, loved it. I was not good at it. I got caught a lot, a lot. But so when I was in great grades, all that, whatever. I was never popular. I wasn't picked on. I was just an average, normal kid, But in 11th grade, we moved to a new school district because the neighborhood that we were living in was getting kind of rough and sketchy, and I was starting to get picked on, and we moved, and when we moved, I just latched on to this crowd that was not good, and that was it. I met my boyfriend. As soon as I got there, I had to find a boyfriend. That was a must. I ended up marrying said boyfriend and having 2 beautiful children with him, but all those years, with him, it was not, we were 16 when we met, and we divorced when we were 30, but we cheated, we lied, there was no honesty. It was a very unhealthy relationship, but he was popular, and he was hot, and he was mine, and we were the it couple, and he sold drugs, so that was great. Again, for years, alcohol was not part of my story. I would go to keg parties, but I would be pretending to drink because I want to fit in, right? Wherever I go, I got to fit in, and I'm a chameleon, and I can act accordingly so that I can fit in with any crowd. So I would go to keg parties, I'd dump it out and just pretend I was drinking because I really had no taste for alcohol. And other dry goods started to come into effect. I wanted to be skinnier, prettier, more social. Anybody that knows me now, I'm not a shy person. I'm pretty outspoken. I'm pretty outgoing, and I was not then. I just wasn't. And I found this one alcohol, we'll say, that gave me that confidence, and made me skinnier. It made me more social. It made me prettier, and that. It just was off to the races. My grades started dropping. I failed my senior year. I failed my second senior year. I had to go to summer school. I was fine with all of this because I could stay back and party with all the friends that were still behind me. And that's all school was to me. It was just partying. And, I got arrested for robbing people's lockers. I was just a hot mess. I was always in trouble, parties at my parents' house, just constantly in trouble. But alcohol was not my thing. But that fact of that kept me very sick and suffering in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous for years. I ended up marrying my boyfriend, and we had my first daughter, who's now 31 years old. And, after she was born, I was off to the races. He was a disc jockey. I was worked in the restaurant, so it was anything I wanted was always accessible right there. We had a lot of fun. I started drinking a little bit, but it was always, dry goods that were my thing. And I ended up involved in this sting, and they came down, kicked down our door. They came in, took me out to jail. And my daughter was a year old in her crib. And at that moment, my husband decided he was done. He was not drinking, or he was just done. That was it. And I was what do you mean? That's just not my story, And, I did not do that. I went off to the races, and, we split up, and we were together one night, and I got pregnant again that one night. And this pregnancy, I was not happy about it. I did not want to be pregnant. I did not want another child. I was a horrible mother. If you would have asked me back then, I thought it was great. I would stick my kid in front of a Barney movie and for days, just that's all she did was watch TV. But my second pregnancy, I have to say, actually was my third, because when I was a teenager, I had I don't usually share this with men in the room, but whatever, it is what it is. I had an abortion when I was 18 years old, and that is kind of when I feel like the emotional addiction took off for me, because I was so distraught from those feelings, and I just didn't deal with them. And I was just off to the races. I was in beauty school after high school. I dropped out of that, and I just didn't care anymore. So, this first baby, she helped me for a little bit until she didn't. And then, because, I can't stay sober for anyone else. I hate myself, so I can't stay sober for myself. And I'm not an alcoholic. I'm just a drug addict, which I'm very proud of, by the way. So I would like to say that I had a nice pregnancy. I did not. I used and got loaded with my daughter every day of my pregnancy with this baby. The guilt and shame of that was horrifying. And she was born, I don't know how, she was born okay. I don't know how that happened, but she was, thank God. And now she's the one that has given me the most precious gift in my life right now, is my granddaughter, and that's her daughter. But, after that happened, my husband took my kids and thank God, because I was not suitable. My mom came over one day. My 2-year-old was running around in the parking lot of our apartment complex while my other daughter was laying on the couch screaming with diaper rash so bad that she was blistered. And that's the reality of my addiction, and I just keep it real. After that happened, I was in and out of rehabs. But again, I could not admit that I was an alcoholic. I would say alcohol is not my problem. It's just drugs. If I could stop doing that, I will be fine. But I tried to drink successfully for 7 years, in and out, and it just never happened. So at one point, I had put together 18 months. I was in a different fellowship, and I was still hanging out in nightclubs, and I was still living that life, just walking a tightrope. And one night I was like, you know what? I'm going to have a Cosmo. And I drank that Cosmo, and I got arrested that night. So my disease is very progressive. It does not slow down, and it is just waiting for me to make one bad choice. So that relapse, I was off to the races. I ended up, all my endeavors became yes. All the things I was never going to do happened. And by the grace of God, on September 24th, 2001, I was arrested and not allowed to leave jail that time. And I was put in prison for 7 months. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me, by far. I thought that day was the worst day of my life, and it ended up saving my life. I had not seen my kids, nor did I care that I had seen my kids, if I'm being honest, because I was so emotionally numbed, and I felt like such a piece of crap that I believed that they were better off without me anyway. But after that happened, I had been in and out, and I like to say this too, I had been in and out of rehabs. I will tell you this, because I have a boy addiction as well. Every time I went to a rehab, I was kind of cute and young too, just saying. I met the love of my life while I was there. We were there, we were meant to be. We were there for a reason, right? He would write me beautiful poems. He would just tell me everything I wanted to hear, and he made me feel good. He gave me instant gratification, and we were going to live happily ever after. And I can assure you that that's never how that ended up. So if you're considering that road, I strongly advise you against it. I lived it, didn't work out for me. But after this, being in jail, I don't know, the week after I got arrested, the girl that I was homeless. I had a home to live in, but I was living out of bags and couch surfing, and I ended up at this girl's house in June. One day I went there in June to get something, and it was September, and I'm still there. And the week after I got arrested, they found her murdered in a car with her throat sliced. So when I tell you that was the best day of my life that I got arrested, I would have been with her that day, and I'd be dead. There's no doubt in my mind that God saved me. When I first came to AA, I'm going to be honest, I did not like it. You talked about God. I heard these steps, and I'm like, no. I'm not, God's not my thing. I didn't not believe, but I really didn't want to believe. And I had no willingness to believe anything about it because I couldn't feel it, touch it. It's just how I was. And they told me, like, for now, like, whatever you need to do, like, they told me to use a light bulb. I personally don't believe a light bulb's my higher power. I do believe electricity is a higher power, because how does that work? I don't know, but it works, right? So I'm going to look at it like that. They told me to use a group of drunks. They told me, a gift of desperation. They told me to use, like, acronyms, like good orderly direction. And I was like, okay, I can do that, And for years while I was in and out, I would come in here. I would never admit that I felt that way. I would come in here and I would just want to sound good. So I would sit here and talk about my relationship with this higher power that I had that really didn't exist, because I had no belief or relationship whatsoever. But I wanted you to come up to me after the meeting and tell me how good I sounded, right? So everything that came out of my mouth was a crock of shh. And trying to watch my mouth, it's hard for me. So anyway, this time around, I don't know what happened, but while I was in there in jail, I remember, like, I had resolved to the case that, like, this is my life. This is how I'm going to live. Homeless, couch surfing, doing whatever I need to do to get the next one. You know what I mean? Being assaulted, and, I had been pistol whipped, I had been raped, like, all that was normal to me. That all became normal to me. And I had been okay with that. Like, that was the life I was going to live, and that was okay. Like, that's what I deserved. And one day while I was in there, I thought, I just got to get off this block. And an AA meeting was coming in. And I was like, let's just go to the meeting, me and this other girl. And that night, I don't know what happened, but I think it was my first real God experience. Because that night, I went to that meeting, and when they came in, the women, and shared their meeting and said, I'm so-and-so, I'm an alcoholic. Like, I just was in tears, and, like, I wanted to change, and I was willing to go to, like it says in How It Works, I was willing to go to any length, which included no boyfriends, no boys. I can't tell you how important that was in my recovery. I believe wholeheartedly if I had not done that, I would never have gotten clean and sober, and I'd be dead. It is deadly to me. So I was willing to go to any length. And I had been in and out of rehabs and halfway houses. And, when you're in jail, I don't know if anybody's been there, but they don't really help you, like, to get, like, to the next level. Like, you really have to do the footwork yourself. Like, they just set you up for failure. But, like, I was fortunate enough that, I had people to help me with that. And I went to a halfway house, and then I went to a recovery house. And then, like, I didn't want to do any of those things. Like, I had to do what I didn't want to do and what I needed to do. And if it was something I wanted to do, I knew I had to do the opposite. I didn't work my steps right away. I wish I would have. My first sponsor that I picked, she drove a Mercedes. She had a nice handbag, and she was pretty. And I was like, oh, I want that. But like, that's what I was looking for at that time. And through my recovery, like, what I've wanted and needed has changed, I don't know. It's just, my life is beyond my wildest dreams. I told you that I had a shoplifting addiction, and that continued into my recovery. After I had a year sober, I got arrested shoplifting. I was in Kohl's. I was with my boss. I had plenty of money. I had just spent $300, but I stole a $12 shirt on my way out and got arrested with my boss. Talk about humiliation. But this is what happened. I was on parole in 5 counties looking at all my back time. And I stepped up and I told my sponsor about it, and I called my PO, and AA showed up for me, and they did not violate me, not one county. And, it helped me with that addiction. Through my addiction, I've dealt with food addiction. Like, my weight has fluctuated probably 100 pounds through these years. I just have a disease of more, and once I put one down, it is something else is going to replace it, unless I'm replacing it with these 12 steps. So once I got into the step work and started helping others, tonight is about the 10th step. So for me, I don't even have to I don't have to, like, go out of my way to do a 10th step anymore. It just happens. Like, it says that we continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. And what that means to me is, like, through my day, whether I want to say it or not, if I'm doing something that's not the right thing, like I feel it, right? I have a conscience today. I don't feel okay when I'm not doing the next right thing. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. I am not perfect, but I am able to admit my wrongs. I wish I didn't see them all the time, but I do, whether I want to or not. And, I am not okay if I don't make them right. And I'm okay with that. Like, I have a peace after, I make my wrongs right, after seeing where I have failed or where I have fallen short throughout the day. And along with that, in my life now, I ended up getting married to someone in sobriety, and I had a sober baby. So I have a 19-year-old who will be 20 in 3 weeks, and she's never seen me drink or drug. And I had the chance to be a mom again. And when I tell you, that's the biggest blessing of my life, because that guilt and shame of my two oldest daughters, and if anybody knows me, my daughters are my every single breath I take revolves around my children. I also gained 3 stepdaughters when I married my husband. So between us, we have 6 daughters. So when my mom told me you're going to get it back tenfold, everything you did to me, she wasn't lying. And, I am blessed with 3, I have 2 granddaughters now and another one on the way. And that baby that I was pregnant with and used and got loaded with every day, the first person I got to watch her daughter was me. Undescribable. I've made amends to my daughters, living amends for the past 24 years. That doesn't go to say my one daughter just got married, and it was very hard for me, and watching her stepmother be such a big part of the wedding. It's hard for me. I'm very grateful for her stepmom, and I'm very grateful that they have a bonus mom that they get all this bonus love from. I'm still human, right? So I get these feelings and I can process them, right? But I don't have to make my wrongs right, because I usually don't act like an asshole when I feel that way. Now that my daughter has this baby, a lot of stuff has been coming up for me. A lot of guilt. I have a lot of guilt that I love this baby so much when I didn't love her mom that way, and how that might make her feel. And we've talked about that. AA gave me the ability to even be able to see any of that, because I'm a very selfish person, right? It's all about me, right? But not anymore. I can be if I'm not working these steps and I'm not helping others. So I was able to, through this program, talk with her about that, how that made her feel, and how can I, no matter how much pain it's causing me, how can I help you to feel better about that? Because I know that has to feel some type of way, and we talked about it, and she does feel some type of way about it, and she has every right to, and I allow her to. And this growth in me is from working these steps, because it's not who I am. Left to my own devices, I am the most self-centered person, and all that matters is my feelings and what I want. And I don't want to be that person anymore at all. I am not okay with that. One of the most important steps I work in my life is definitely the 10th step, because I have to take a look at my day. Where could I do better, and what can I do better tomorrow? How do I not repeat these mistakes? And also step 12, helping others gives me, I'm just going to say, the biggest high that any drug never gave me, right? No alcohol or drug ever gave me that permanent feeling of just helping someone else, and knowing that maybe something I did or said can save their life is just amazing to me. And it's not me, it's God, it's the steps, it's my sponsor, it's my network. I have the best friends in the whole wide world. I have so many true friends. It's amazing. I hated girls when I came in here. I hated them. I thought you were all backstabbing, treacherous, jealous bees. Because that's what I was, right? And that's who I surrounded myself with. And today, I have friends that I was in jail with. I have friends and we're still sober. We all did this together. And without them, there's been times through my sobriety where I got cocky and I thought I don't need to go to AA anymore. I'm good. I'm good. Right. And then my head tells me, Because people are like, oh, well, you need to give back what was freely given to you. And my head will tell me, you don't have anything to offer anybody if I let it. You know what I mean? And that's not true. That's absolutely not true. We all can help each other. We have to. You know what I mean? And what if the women that were here before me weren't there to share their experience, strength, and hope? I would have had no shot, right? So how dare I not give back what was so freely given to me? But for a few years, I stopped going, you know, and I was a bartender at the same time. And I thought that was keeping me green because I would watch these customers and they disgusted me, just watching them sitting in the same seat talking about the same dreams that they had that they were going to do that were never going to happen. And, you know, something happened in my life, something fell apart, and like I was either going to pick up or I was going to come back to AA. And thank God the network I had of women surrounded me and carried me back into AA. Because I don't care how much time I have. I'm no more sober than anyone in this room if I'm not working this program one day at a time. I'm one bad choice away from becoming a homeless, God knows what, probably on the streets of Kensington. There's no doubt in my mind that that's where I'll end up. I don't believe for 1 minute that I can do this successfully. I don't even want to. I don't even want to anymore. Like, I don't want to drink. You know what I mean? I just don't. Like, I just love my life today. I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I love helping others. I just love everything. And I'm running out of things to say, so I'm going to shut up now before I start rambling. And that's all I have.
All right. Good job. Thanks so much. We've come to the part of the meeting where we're going to open up the floor to you guys for shares, discussions, questions. It says limit your time to 3 minutes, but I'll leave that up to you. Please try to keep your conversation to the literature, and in this case, what Lorna spoke about tonight. And if you feel like drinking or if you've had a drink today, please come see me or speak to someone after the meeting. So there you go.
Well, Taryn, alcoholic.
Hi, Taryn.